Hi again, everybody. It is Victor from Mark Lawrence's Playbook, and we've got your NFL over under review from last week's Game 7 action and a little bit of a preview for this week's Game 8 action in the NFL. And you see the totals tip sheet there uh, on my right. It is this week's issue of the totals tip sheet, and going low is still the way to go in the NFL, as in unders. Now, week 7, that's last week's action, is in the books, and it was not quite the complete whitewash that we saw in the previous week. Remember, 2 weeks ago, two overs, 12 unders, one tie. But from an average point per game perspective, last week was still the third lowest scoring weekend of the entire season. The official results from last week in the NFL. Now there was only 13 games because 6 teams were off with their bye, but there was 5 overs last week and 8 games ended up going under the total. The average combined points last week were 43.3. That was the average points per game. So we're just about through the month of October. We're almost 2 full months into the NFL season. After 7 weeks, here's where we are right now. There has been 41 overs, 64 unders, one tie. That basically means that 61% of all NFL games this season have indeed gone under the total, with a year to date average of just 43.4 combined points per game. A couple of things that we need to add. The primetime games. We're starting to see some higher scoring results in the Thursday NFL games. It happened last week, it happened 2 weeks ago. Thursday games are now up to 48.6 in terms of average on the season. But with that said, we caution you if you want to be betting the overs in the Sunday night and Monday night games, as those games have gone under the total big time. The Sunday night and the NFL Monday night games have now gone 3 and 13 over under on the season. And in fact, in the 9 Monday night games this year, there's only been one game that's gone over. 8 of those Monday games have gone under, with a very low scoring average of 36.2 points per game. So, how are the lines makers adjusting this week? Well, right now, the average over under line is at an extremely low 40.3 points per game. It is the lowest average over underline for a full 16 game slate that we have seen in over 15 seasons. Now, let's look ahead to this week. And as I just mentioned, there are no teams taking off this week with the bye week. All 32 NFL teams will be in action this week. However, with that said, 6 teams are coming in off their bye last week. 4 teams will be off next week. So, from this week's totals tip sheet, we got just a little blurb here about how teams perform before their bye week, and then, of course, after their bye week as well. In the last 3 seasons, NFL teams before their bye week have gone 31 and 46 over under. That's 60% under, and it's very solid. But in the last 2 years, the numbers are even better: 15 and 31, that's 67% under. And in this 2023 season alone, NFL teams have gone an almost perfect 1 and 12 over under. That's 1 over, 12 unders before their bye week. There are 3 teams playing this Sunday who will be off next week with their bye week. These are the 3 teams we want to look at to go under the total this week in Game 8 action. The 3 Sunday teams who will be off next week are the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Denver Broncos at home hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. And finally, the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Those are the 3 games you want to target this week in terms of your totals. and we think you should decide to go low in all three of those games. That's Jacksonville, Pittsburgh under, Denver, Kansas City under, and finally San Francisco, Cincinnati under the total. There you have it. We're coming up to week 8 action in the NFL. That's your review from last week, a little bit of a preview for this week. We're going to get back to the Mark Lawrence podcast in the next minute or two. And don't forget, this week's Totals Tip Sheet newsletter available at the playbooksports.com website. Best of luck this week in NFL Game 8 action.